Okay, welcome to council meeting. Thank you everybody for coming in the council chambers and joining us online as well. We'll get off and going quick here so everybody can get back out to the 100-degree heat outside that we're all enjoying. We'll first go to Councilman Gordon for the prayer and motivational message, and then whose turn is it for the pledge? Councilman Argyle?
I'll do it, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Jordan Hales is going to offer an opening prayer for us.
You said yes to Brennan?
See that?
He's a persuasive man. Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to gather to discuss the needs and the dealings of this wonderful community. We're grateful, Father, for those that have come before us and for the legacy that they have left for us and the trust that they've placed in us. And we're grateful for the example that they have set. Father, we're grateful for the unity that exists here in Spanish Fork, and we're grateful, Father, that we have such a beautiful part of thy world in which to live and work and recreate. And we pray, Father, as we discuss the needs of this community, that we may do so with open hearts and try to understand one another, and pray that thy hand can guide this work. And we pray that we can have a spirit of understanding and a spirit of unity. And this, Father, we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan.
Would the audience please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You'll notice we're missing a team member tonight. We're missing one of the good parts of our council. Councilwoman Beck is away on vacation, and we wish her safe travels with her and Chris, I believe, over in Europe. Is that me because I said Europe? That's reverberate? All right. Okay, let's see. Next, we will go to the Steve Boyack presentation. I'm not sure who's here for that. There they are. Thank you. Yes. Welcome.
Hi.
It's a presentation to you, actually, and I'm representing, a city-approved memorial for my dad that went on this summer, and it was something that, as I'd moved out of town, biggest mistake of my life to move away from Spanish Fork, but we were gone for quite a while. When I got back in, people were saying, why don't you have something for your dad who did so much for this city and for the baseball program? And it got me thinking, and so I approached the recreation department, and they were more than willing and happy to do it. I just wanted to share a few minutes with what it's about and who my dad was, just quickly. But he grew up here in Spanish Fork, lived his whole life here in Spanish Fork, born and died. The only time he was gone was when he was 19 and served in the Navy during World War II. But when he returned, he married another local girl, not another one, but and he got heavily involved into the community, walked the streets, drove the streets, was very well known here, but got heavily involved in the baseball program. And I like to think that he was kind of the beginning of what it is today. Paul Harvey had actually mentioned Spanish Fork, Utah, when it was a lot tinier than it is now. By the way, quit doing such a good job. We need to curb the growth there. You guys are doing too great a work. But Paul Harvey mentioned it as being the baseball capital of the world per capita. So many kids were involved, and my dad would go around. If somebody wasn't playing, he'd knock on their door and ask the mom and dad to please get their child involved, and so on and so forth. But we're proud of what he did. We're proud of this city, proud of the programs that you guys afford to have take place in this city. And so we just want to present you, Mayor, with a plaque, a thank you plaque.
Awesome.
The rest of you will have to sneak in and steal it if you want to share it, but
Nobody
it's
can
got
touch
his
this.
name
It's
on there.
going- yeah.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
And we're local here too now. We grew up here. I grew up with Chad a long time ago. He's older than me, but that's okay. We teach at Maple Mountain High School now, so.
I'm in my 43rd year of teaching high school. I coached for 36 years, probably from the influence of my dad, so.
Yeah, and you teach up there at Maple Mountain?
Yeah.
How do you hide your maroon and gold from red and gray? Or do you wear red and gray underneath maroon and gold?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
balance.
all right.
Yeah.
We're still Dons as long as this is not being televised, right?
There you go. Okay, all right.
Thanks for all you guys do. We really
All right.
appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Thank
very
Thank
you.
you so
Thanks a
much.
lot.
This is very kind. Thank you so much. I've said it before, that's an interesting dynamic in our community that's still relatively new in the multiple high school arena that we are with the Maple Mountain High School, Spanish Fork High School, and ALA. And so the solution is I just got all three hats in the mayor's office. And so depending on who we're talking to, put it on. But thank you so much. And it's growing.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
bursting.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This will be up there. Thank you. Appreciate it. You got one of those, Gordo? Not yet. Okay. That'll take us, the next item agenda is general public comments to the mayor and city council. Is anybody here from the public, not on a specific agenda item that might be on the agenda, but would like to address the mayor and city council? Any public comment? Yes, sir.
Should I come to the podium?
Come up to the podium, and then please state your name, so Tara can get it in the minutes.
Hi, my name is James Berkey. I live up 1462 East Mountain View. So the other day I was coming up from Dickerson Automotive, and you know that place where we have the train tracks just before the overpass? I've noticed a lot of people will idle on the train tracks waiting for the lights to turn green. And that's like a massive potential hazard. Not that I care for the Honda Ridgeline that was parked there, because it's a Ridgeline. I was more caring for the damage possibly to the train. So I was hoping if we could get a sign or something put up to help remind people that parking or idling on the train tracks is a bad idea. Would that be something done by Spanish Fork or by UDOT?
That's a good question. We got streets guys that could probably answer
Okay.
that question for us,
Alright,
but
cool.
this is the exact place to bring that up and have them discuss it and see if there's anything the city could put up there.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank
That's all I
you.
had.
Thanks,
Thank you.
James.
Thanks,
Appreciate you
James.
for coming. Yeah, if somebody, make sure and get that note in the streets department if there's any additional signage that, I'm looking for Chris. Where's Jared? Jared, I thought he was wearing a suit. He
gave his thumbs up.
All right, he got it. All right. Guy in the suit. All right. Thank you. Anybody else from the public that wants to address the council and mayor? Okay, if not, we'll move on to council comments. I'll start with Councilman Marshall on council comments tonight.
Awesome. Mine are
Ready to
really,
go?
really short.
Okay.
All of mine are in Spanish Fork 101. So Emily's going to come and tell us all about the Harvest Moon Hurrah and Wings and Wheels.
Perfect.
I was getting there. So I'll just save my time for that one.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay. Council comments for Councilman Marshall are coming up in the 101. Okay. We'll go this way.
This way?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Councilman
A
Euler.
couple of things. We'll start by turning some time over to Kathleen Levitt, the Chamber President, for some news that they've got going on.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Council. I've got my littles with me today. But I also brought some visuals, because I have them, and they're fun. So a couple of things we've got going on this month. We have, we're starting to open registration for our business summit on October 20th. That's going to be a half-day event. So start in the morning, end by about 2. We've got keynote speakers. We're excited about Jeanette Bennett, and also Mr. Mayor Mike Mendenhall is going to be speaking for us there, as well as a few other business, kind of really inspirational business people, so we're super excited for that.
on him?
I think it's going to be like an open Q&A type
We're going to
thing
start
like we
at
did
what
with
time? What time are we going to start?
It's starting at 8.
We'll be done about 5 p.m.
Excellent, yes. I meant a full day.
Very self-aware, Mike, very self-aware.
And then we have Business of the Month is actually this week, Thursday the 8th at noon. We're celebrating Tabitha's Way Food Pantry for our Business of the Month, and we're super excited to be honoring them this month. We've got Harvest Moon Hurrah we're helping out with a little bit. We're doing something different this year. I just wanted to show you guys kind of so that the city also can see we're doing things a little bit differently, but Gordo's donates every year pumpkins for the Harvest Moon Hurrah, but they're not quite open yet. The pumpkin harvest is a little bit late this year, so we're doing vouchers for the pumpkins. We're still doing faces on the back, so all the kids that come down will still get a voucher to go pick up their pumpkin at Gordo's Family Fun Farm, and then they'll get a little face to decorate their pumpkin with that, their stickers. So we have a whole wide assortment of them. We've got a couple thousand, so we're stocked and ready to go this year. We're hoping this will drive a little bit more business down to Gordo's Way as well, so it'll be mutually beneficial. And then the last thing we have is the Chamber of Commerce is doing a fundraiser. We're super excited. We're doing a travel in your backyard experience at the Krishna Temple here in Spanish Fork. So we have dancers that have, there's a school of dance in Harriman that does traditional Indian dance. They're sending dancers to the temple to do a performance for whoever wants to come. It's open to the community. The temple themselves actually has a full restaurant inside that they grow everything on their grounds. It's fully sustainable up there. It's pretty amazing. So they're going to be serving food and drink for everyone that comes down. And all the proceeds are going to be, we're a nonprofit organization, so all of the proceeds that the chamber makes from this event will be going right back into the community to help fund more stuff to be able to benefit the business community here in Spanish Fork. So that's what we've got with the Chamber of Commerce. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. All right, and then Nick has a few pictures that we're going to post. The Senior Center is back in action after taking the summer off. They recently had their annual sock hop, which is a gathering where they get together, they wear some fancy socks, they have a sock contest where they vote on who had the nicest pair of socks. They do a little dancing. On this picture, May, who is on the left, is 101 years old, and she was out dancing along with the rest of them. So 101 today. Thank you. Today is her birthday, so 101 years old today. And she was dancing with the rest of them, so great to see her there. This is some of the attire that they were dressed in. And then another picture coming up, there's some fancy flower socks that were worn. This one here, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to our Youth City Council, who always steps up when the seniors are doing an event. They'll come down, they help set up chairs, they clean up afterwards, and the biggest thing, they get the seniors out and they dance with them. So huge thank you to our Youth City Council and to our Senior Center Committee who are all in this photo. So wanted to talk about that a little bit. And then just a couple other things. If you're not aware, this Saturday, the 10th, is the National Day of Service. There are lots of opportunities to get out and serve in our community, and if you're not aware of anything, just try and come up with a service project you can do with your family around your own neighborhood. But National Day of Service on the 10th, and then last thing I've got is Thursday, this coming Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. MAG is having their MAG transplant meeting down at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds, where they take input and give a lot of information on their transportation plan that they've got for the next 30 to 50 years for Utah County. So it's a very informative, very good meeting. If you have the opportunity to go down to the fairgrounds, that's this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilman Euler. No, you can go first. You want him to go first? Okay. Councilman Gordon, you're up.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. I don't have much. Just wanted to remind everybody of the farmers market going on Saturdays, and things are going well there. Continue seeing some fruit coming in now, and all the squashes and pumpkins as corn's kind of on the tail end. So remind everybody of that. West Center Street at 8 a.m. on Saturdays until typically between noon and 1. It's supposed to go till 1, but everybody's been running out of stuff lately. So Yeah. And then I also wanted to mention Saturday, there's a Shoot with the Sheriff event up at our gun club this Saturday, September 10th. If you're into that, it's proceeds benefit Utah County's honorary colonels, go back into supporting our local sheriff's department. So wanted to mention that if anyone is interested in that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Gordon. Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick, this is awful loud, seems like. I want to make a quick comment. Something was commented by a news organization a few weeks ago, and it's kind of ate on me because of what they said, and I just want to make a comment concerning that. CNN, after a Supreme Court decision was made, CNN claimed that our nation is a white Christian nationalist nation. And I've thought about that a lot, and they cited a treaty even that was done in 1797 by Thomas Jefferson. This treaty that they said that claims that that's exactly what we are, was our merchant ships were being plundered and attacked overseas, and Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin decided to go there and find out what's going on. Why are they attacking our ships? Why they were there, what they were told was that because we're a Christian nation, some 1,300 years ago during the Crusades, that Christianity was used to plunder, kill, and attack nations. And that's what they were afraid of, so they were not going to allow us to operate in their waters. We struck a treaty, Thomas Jefferson wrote a treaty, and then he declared in that treaty what we are is that our Constitution is a First Amendment and our right to religious freedom. It's not that we're a Christian nation, it's that Constitution allows us to choose who we are, who we worship, when and where we do that, regardless of anything. And the comment was made by Thomas Jefferson that the separation between church and state is not between religion and government, but it's that the government will not infringe upon that choice of religious freedom. And that was what the Constitution states, is that no federal, state, county, city, local group or organizations or even individuals would have the right, because of that Constitution, to infringe on that. We were a new nation, and yes, we were a Christian nation, and that was what he claimed. And then he reiterated that many times. Over the few years, we've got that a little bit confused. The Supreme Court recently upheld a decision with the right for a person to pray in public, and that he will not be infringed upon right. I think that was an important decision. Our nation is no more than, if you refer to it as it being a Christian nation, it means nothing more than we care about our neighbors. Over the 247 years, we have helped every nation and country on this earth. We've shared our technology, our engineering, our medicine, our wealth with these nations to raise their standard of living. And even our enemies, if we've conquered them, we have not taken the spoils of war. We've simply asked for a small piece of land to bury our dead there, and nothing more, and then we've helped them rebuild their nation, even better than most times than they were. We are Americans, and I think that it is important that we know that as they accuse us of things that we are not, CNN was wrong on all accounts. We are a Christian nation, but only in those mindsets, and that Constitution has been different for those 247 years, which allows us to express in the way we can and not be infringed upon that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Argyle. Okay, a couple of things before we go to 101. I did want to make a mention really quick of an appointment, an election that happened recently in Spanish Fork City, an election that involved our city manager, which typically doesn't happen. You don't elect a city manager, you appoint a city manager. But our city manager was elected to a position, a statewide position through the Utah League of Cities and Towns. He belongs to an organization called the Utah City Managers Association as well, which he's served as president before. But he has been elected by his peers to serve as the liaison to the Utah League of Cities and Towns. So 248 cities and towns across the state of Utah. And our manager, Seth Perrins, has been elected to serve for, is it forever? Like, how long does this go? Is there a maturity to this? It is 4 years. So for the next 4 years, what makes me proud about that is, is that coughing?
We can't fire him for 4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Related, I apologize.
Seth does a great job for Spanish Fork City, but it is recognized across the state how well he does for Spanish Fork City on issues that are obviously pertinent to our community. But, you know, we're not the first city to maybe go through different issues of growth, transportation, housing, recreation, all the other things that you think, man, those are the daily things of a city manager, and not only be who he is, but manage a whole bunch of employees as well. It's a pretty cool honor that now he's voted by his co-workers. How would you put it? His colleagues, to represent the city managers across the state. So that is a lot of work ahead of Seth. To be up at the state capitol, working with a lot of cities, a lot of different city managers, to make sure that decisions for Spanish Fork City stay the most local as possible. And so when a question is asked, is Spanish Fork a well-run city? It's pretty evident that our city manager is being asked to lead a statewide organization of city managers. So you can rest assured the part that Seth plays in this city is being done very well. I appreciate your hard work, Seth. I know I speak for the whole council in that, and good luck. Good luck to our assistant city manager, Tyler Jacobson, as Seth will spend some time to even more time up the Capitol during the session and off session and stuff. But we're excited for that opportunity, excited for Spanish Fork City to be represented on that level as well. It's a pretty big deal. I want to read an email really quick that we received. The council and I received this last week, and I asked permission of the resident if I could read this, and he gave me that permission. So I want to read it, and it's in the spirit of him saying, hey, more information needs to get out there. And so when I asked him, okay, more information, your email is more information, can I read it to the millions watching, like Mayor Leifson says? And he said, yes, I could. So let me just take a second and read this really quick. It says, and I told him I'd keep his name anonymous as well. I'm a resident, this is sent Saturday, September 3rd. I'm a resident here in Spanish Fork. I've lived here for 16 wonderful years. In late July, I received my property tax statement from the county, and I was upset, not just at the city, but at everyone else who wanted more of my money. I quickly started researching why the entities wanted more money. I was impressed with the city's response to explain the mess of truth in taxation, the openness in saying the majority of that tax increase was for the rec center, etc. Thank you for communicating effectively. On August 2nd, I watched the city council meeting at home. There was something that was brought up by those who don't want the rec center that has stuck with me. If I can't afford the taxes, I won't be able to afford to go. What am I paying for? Why am I paying for something I won't use? It's a valid point, and it sticks to people's minds. I'd like to suggest a compromise to address this concern that may gather support from those who may think this way. Give every resident of Spanish Fork a chance to visit the rec center for free once every quarter. Yes, I know I'm asking too much, but think about the points you'd get from this, which is, Shane Marshall's always thinking about the points he can get from something. He didn't say that in email. Paying to build something you can't afford to use is adding insult to injury. Giving them free admission removes the insult. Those opposed to it can feel if maybe their tax burden is slightly justified as opposed to simply unwarranted. It may be an expensive benefit, but a benefit. I wouldn't just suggest something expensive without an idea on how to fund it. Perhaps with some adjustment to the daily rates, this may be offset. Charging everyone an extra 25 cents or non-residents an extra $1, for example, might do it. I also wouldn't do this forever, perhaps only for the first 10 years. I'll leave the details to those who actually know the real figures. The point is, if the city can find a way to ensure everyone has a chance to use it regularly, it will definitely increase citizen support. Once every quarter is also very deliberate. Once a year or even twice a year would not give them much. I also wouldn't say 4 times a year. Some may only use it during the summer and cause overcrowding. Yes, it might be burdensome to track who has used it in a quarter, etc., but it may promote enough of a cadence to make people feel it's for everyone all the time. I want to read that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we all received that email as a council and mayor, and I haven't discussed it with everybody, but the Councilman Gordon and I talked about it earlier. It's some good ideas. You know, when people talk about good ideas, sometimes it's not much more than sending an email and saying, hey, I have an idea. Do you want to run this down? I've mentioned it to our Parks and Rec director, Dale Robinson, and he's been supportive in exploring an idea like this, of what that means to the residents of Spanish Fork. It should be noted that we have always had a fund in Spanish Fork where kids, and I've told this story before, but kids that want to recreate with their peers in Spanish Fork have never been turned away because they couldn't afford the fee to play. Very generous donors, including the Rotary Club in Spanish Fork, has always helped the city identify, you know, the risk you run of a program is something like that being abused, obviously, but generous donors and other clubs have made it possible that they don't ever want a kid leaving, you know, a Parks and Rec program, just like what Mr. Boyack said here. What was the way his dad did it? He went to the door and said, "Why isn't Brandon playing baseball? Get him out there," you know. And I'm sure he never let money be the excuse of why a kid wasn't playing. And that's the spirit of Spanish Fork that will continue to be, not only for our recreation programs, but for the rec center that gets built as well. So thank you, Mr. Resident. You know who you are. I told you I'd read that at a council meeting, and we'll explore that detail for sure. Good idea, and keep the good ideas coming. Please send them in. One last point I wanted to touch on. I sent Nick. I didn't think about this till just barely, and sent him the picture. But if you ever want to make an old plumber like my dad cry, it's not a very good picture to see him cry in there, but my brother Corey took this picture as a couple of gentlemen from our Diamond Fork Riding Club came to visit Mom and Dad last week. If you remember, during the rodeo, one night is tough enough to wear pink, and pink is associated with cancer. And what they do with that night, as far as the Diamond Fork Riding Club, is raise money to help people that are going through cancer. And Mom was embarrassed by it, obviously, because she's one that feels she doesn't need any money. And so the amount of money that they came and brought to her, she's asking, you know, where she can donate it, and I'm sure that's what would happen. But these men and the men that are really tough and gruff and opening gates and moving big bucking horses around and bulls around during Fiesta days are pretty big softies inside too, and including my dad. So I wanted to just again thank them publicly, but also let the community know how great of people we have inside our community. Organizations, the people that make up a community is what the difference is here in Spanish Fork, and these two, Mr. Brinkerhoff and Mr. Adams, are two of the finest. So thank you for your gesture to the Mendenhall family, and thank you for all the other families that you help out in that arena. So thank you. Okay, I should have said personal privilege for that first, right? Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. Before we move on, there's one more thing that came to mind. A few weeks ago, or a few meetings ago, we had an individual that got up during public comment and shared some concerns he had with the mail-in voting process. And our city reached out to the county to do some research and some follow-up on that. And they shared some information of what they learned with us, but I think it's important that that be shared publicly as well.
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. I looked back at our notes and noticed that we had planned to follow up on that last council meeting, and I think got kind of sidetracked by all the fun swearing-ins and employees that we're recognizing. So yeah, as we try to do in this setting, follow up on comments or questions made in this setting so that we can answer the questions or concerns expressed by residents. So today, that one comment about the street sign, we can follow up on that here as well. Not today, but in a future council meeting. But I think the concern was expressed that that an individual had voted and they received a card that said their vote wasn't counted, and they expressed concerns about mail-in elections because of that. That they felt like their vote didn't count because, and they, I think, said they had met all the requirements. And so we reached out to the county to see what they knew, and the feedback that we got on that particular ballot was that it was sent in outside of the bounds of the election timeframe. So it's important maybe in this setting to also to remind everybody when we have an election that you can always put your ballot in the mail until the day before election day. So if Tuesday is election day, today was election day, let's say, and you put your ballot in the mailbox today, it will be late and will not count. If you're going to put it in a mailbox, you have to put it in the mailbox yesterday. If today was election day and you put that ballot in one of the silver election boxes, we have one at our senior center, a couple of blocks west of where we are right now. Those you can put a ballot in that box until 8 p.m. on election night. It doesn't have the same timeline, right? Tonight, you could put it there at 8 p.m. on election night. You can also take it to an election center. Sometimes we have one in our town. We don't always, depending on the election cycles. And of course, information about that is always available on different election websites. But the feedback that we got from that one, they looked at the particular ballot and were able to identify that it met some of those criteria where we don't know exactly which, but it was just simply mailed outside of the boundaries of the election timeframe that is allowed by law.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, Councilman Euler. Thanks for that clarification. It's important to note why things are the way they are. I appreciate it. Okay. That takes us, if there's nothing else, that'll take us to Spanish Fork 101, items A, and then item B, the Harvest Moon Hurrah first. Emily Harriman.
Hi, I'm Emily Harriman, Spanish Fork City Special Event Supervisor. Nick, do you have the graphic for? Yes, he's saying yes. So Harvest Moon Hurrah is this Saturday at the City Park from 3 to 8 p.m. Here's the schedule. We also have it listed on our website and social media pages. This event is sponsored by the Art Council. Gladys Molloy, who is the treasurer for the Art Council, has been the one who's been organizing this entire event. It's a lot of work, as we all know, planning events, and Gladys has done a great job. So we have a whole line of entertainment from 3 to 8 p.m., and we have several games for the kids from 3 to 6. That was what the chamber was talking about, the pumpkins. You'll get your little certificate to go over to Gordo's Family Fun Farm to get your pumpkin. Is that correct? Family Fun Farm? And so you'll go get that there later. So we have all these fun events this Saturday. We have a few food trucks that will be there. They'll be parked on the south side of the park. So come on down. It's just going to be a really nice, fun evening. And then next, I'm going to talk about Wings and Wheels. So Wings and Wheels is the last Saturday of this month, September 24th. We are still looking for a lot of volunteers to help. Last year, to give you an idea, we had over 200 volunteers that helped throughout the entire day with Wings and Wheels. That includes setup, which starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we go as late as 8 o'clock at night between the whole setup, takedown, and the entire event. This is a great activity, service project for kids. If there are a younger child who still wants to help out, they may come with a parent. So I'm okay with that, because sometimes you get 11-year-olds who want to come and help out, and that is just fine if they're with their parent. High school kids, it's a great opportunity. A lot of times you have classes in high school where you need to do community service. This is a great thing to come and help us there too. We have tickets on sale at SF City Tix, so you can go ahead and purchase your tickets ahead of time. They're $12 if you buy them online, or $15 at the gate. Those 11 years and older need tickets, so for children 10 and under, they are free with the adults. And we have a lot of fun planned for that day. Did you guys have any questions at all about any of our events?
Thank you for doing them.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Who's doing the blow-up thing? Mayor Leifson got to push that last year. He thought it was
Well,
Are you asking?
we leave that for the mayor.
What?
The mayor always does that, which you are the mayor. So we're going to have to make arrangements to get you out there for the fun part of blowing up all the gasoline as the planes and cars go racing by. So, and then I have some tickets here for the council members, so I'll go ahead and hand these out to all of you, so you can bring your families down to the event. And remember, if anybody needs any tickets, sfcitytix.com.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. Hold hands together. Jagger can help. Very good. It's always said, how do you keep a town feeling like a community and small? It's a few events like this every couple of
100%.
months that keep it going like that. So appreciate all the hard work that goes into that. Thank you. Okay, takes us to item number 7 on the agenda, consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second?
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle to approve the consent items. Roll call votes. Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Consent items are approved. Takes us to item 8, public hearing, an ordinance approving the Oakridge Cove zone change and development agreement. Mr. David Anderson?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I believe the city attorney and I are going to kind of tag team this one. This proposal is unique in a couple of ways. It certainly has been through a unique process over the years. The project, and we'll look at the location here in just a second. The development, what we're looking at tonight, and Phase 1 both, were originally approved in 2006. Construction on the first phase started, the recession hit, everything ground to a stop. And it wasn't until a few years ago that the property owners approached the city about moving forward with Phase 2. And we as staff have been talking with the property owners about getting to this point tonight for the past several years. The subject property is located between the original phase of Oakridge Cove right in here and the reservoir in this area right here. There are some improvements that would come with the development, further enhancement of Spanish Oaks Drive here, improvements made that would help lessen, hopefully even eliminate any impact that was the result of somehow the dam at the reservoir being breached. And those are the main things at this point in time, at least that I'll point out. Vaughn might want to touch on some other things. But relative to history, and I'm going to try to be really brief here, but I'd be happy to go into more detail if you guys would like. The city changed its approach
to development approvals and the rights that came with certain zoning districts after the project was originally approved in 2006. So, in short, to be able to proceed with Phase 2 in some fashion that is similar to what was originally approved, the zoning would need to be changed from R130 to R115. Now, in this case, that does not get the applicant any additional homes. In fact, and I think there are a couple of different ways maybe to look at the area and to measure this, but I'm right, plus or minus maybe one lot. The original approval of Phase 2 would have allowed for the construction of 47 homes. Then, when the Planning Commission reviewed this a couple of years ago, we were thinking that there would be 40. With what's before you tonight, the proposal is down to 38 lots for single-family homes, lots that conform to the city's development requirements for the R115 zone. So that, in fact, is the proposal. A few different parts to it. Proposed zone change the zoning from R130 to R115, and then to approve a preliminary plat, which is a new business item that I think is next on your agenda, but also to approve a development agreement, which is something that I know our legal counsel has spent considerable time crafting, but that is also on your agenda, I think, attached to this item with the public hearing. One more thing about the process and it being unique, there's been a substantial lapse in time from when this was presented to the Planning Commission back in 2020 and tonight. That's really unique. And that is the result of review that staff has done since taking this project to the Planning Commission back in 2020. Incidentally, the Planning Commission recommended that it be approved then. The work that staff has done since then with the applicant has primarily had to do with new geotechnical standards that the city has adopted in recent years, particularly to make sure that construction on, maybe I'd say rather, in environments like this, hillside type of environments with maybe some unique soils and that type of a thing, happens in a way that doesn't put property or health or safety in any way at any type of risk. And then also to do a pretty detailed study, I referenced it earlier, on how to deal with the fact that this phase is below a reservoir. I think to that effect, if you'd like to reference the geotechnical report, in fact, that's tied to the proposed development agreement, it has quite a bit more detail in that than what you probably want to get into tonight. But to recap, and then maybe I'll let Vaughn add whatever he'd like to. Unique situation, without a doubt. Proposed zone change, staff has recommended that be approved. Proposed preliminary plat and development agreement, likewise, staff has recommended that those be approved. And the Planning Commission also did that. The plat has not changed in terms of form in a significant way since the Planning Commission saw it, except that those two lots have been removed from what the Planning Commission saw. But nonetheless, it's been a long time since they saw it and held a public hearing. So those are unique things. If you don't have anything for me, maybe I'll let
So
Vaughn.
Dave, has those studies been done recently?
Done over the course of the past couple of years, but yes, done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Concerning the reservoir?
Yes, we're down to, as I understand it, just needing a final design on, I would call it basically a levee that would be constructed, maybe in part, it would be a wall that would divert water to some place where it would not cause harm to anything if, the downhill side of that dam at the reservoir did somehow rupture.
So
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
If, like, it's going from, the recommendation is from R130 to R115. Super loud. it sounds like it's getting more dense.
Right.
Why is it not?
Back in 2006, we allowed developers to do certain things to get extra density in their developments. And it very much so was a quid pro quo kind of a system. If you build homes with a certain exterior materials, you get a certain percentage of extra density in your development. If you dedicate open space to the city, likewise, you get X percentage of additional density. In this case, the developers provided some land to the city, I think tied to the gun club. They provided some land for a trail, and they gave the city some cash for the construction of the pavilion that's on the south side of the reservoir there. And because of that, initially they got a 60-something% density bonus. That program was totally changed, I think in 2008 or 2009, so it's been a long time since it was changed. That quid pro quo kind of system no longer exists. And likewise, the city has reduced the number of homes per acre that can be built in different zoning districts. So those couple of different factors have played into the fact that in order to get the 38 homes that the applicants would like to have the project approved for, they need the R115 zone and the just over 2 homes per acre density that it allows for.
How does that density relate to the rest of the area?
That's a great question. I could guess, but off the top of my head, I don't have an answer for you. I think it's comparable. I could guess.
It's not double.
Honestly, again, I don't want to guess, but I'd be willing to say it's less, like as if the square footage of these lots is going to be larger than what exists with.
Up there today.
I think it's the Oak subdivision right next door. I could do quick.
It'd be nice to know just the context of things, right? I think
Yeah.
if I lived up there, I'd be concerned that it sounds like there's twice as many homes going in there as there was planned for.
Yep.
Clearly, that's not necessarily the case, but it sure feels like it, or sure sounds like it.
Well, when you talk about, I mean,
30 to
like
15.
just do
is-
the math, right? 30 to 15. I get where people would understand or, believe that
Sure.
that's the fact, and
Okay.
it's really not in this case.
It'd be good to know what the rest of it is, just set the
I
context
can at
for me
least do a
as we
spot
move forward.
check.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dave before we hear from Vaughn? Might have some more from you in a minute. Thanks.
As Dave mentioned, this is a unique. It's unique because, one, the city owns property on 3 sides of it. Let me see if I can show. This area, the reservoir, and then the gun club on the west side. And so we are adjacent owners, and with that, we share some responsibility with constructing Spanish Oaks Drive and the road on the south side of their project called Osprey Way. That the progress stalled for so long. It was at the Planning Commission in May of 2020, right when I was just starting my work at the city, and it was on pause for so long because of the concern about the dam breach possibility. And so the city conducted that dam breach study, and basically that study recommended some approaches to mitigate any potential harm that could follow from the dam breaching. And so the project was redesigned to include some of those features. And as Dave mentioned, this area along the south or along the dam here, that area will be built up, and a channel, like a flood channel, would be constructed to direct water away from the subdivision down to the adjacent gully here. So that's what the development agreement was waiting for all this time, was to finalize the dam breach study and get their recommendations. So the city will help build Spanish Oaks Drive and the Osprey Way, so this road and this road, because we are the adjacent owners and to accommodate the potential dam breach. There are other dedications and payments that Dave mentioned. There's the parcel below the dam. This big parcel here will come to the city. There was a previous donation of a about 2.4 acres for the gun club fallout area up in this area. And there's also some of the city's facilities were located on the developer's property, and so that complicated things a little bit as well. So with this whole agreement, we try to get all of our facilities onto property that the city would own at the end of the day. Beyond those things, the agreement addresses the typical things, density, improvements, fees, and things like that. But those are kind of the unique things in the agreement. Any questions about that?
I have a question, Vaughn. So the people know when we get, these agenda items and things, we start doing our research and start talking to staff and ask our questions and things like that. And the comment that Dave made earlier that it's been like 2 years since this was at DRC and, Planning Commission.
Right.
It was like Zoom meetings at the same time as well, right? So my question for you is if that were to push back to Planning Commission, if the council were inclined to do that tonight, say, hey, we want to go put eyes on that. I've asked Dave that question. Dave doesn't know that much would change as a result of, what he said earlier. Staff recommends this, and I know all of your efforts that have gone into this as well as Junior Baker prior to you. So my question is, if we do the public hearing tonight, and then the council was inclined to send it back to Planning Commission, would we then come to another public hearing here?
I don't think you would need to do that. What you're describing is a little out of the ordinary for the process. Typically, it goes Planning Commission first, as you know, and then they recommend either way to the City Council, and the public hearing happens here. If you held your public hearing, but you had a specific question or that the Planning Commission could answer and had to ask them to review it, I think you could do that, and then you'd come back to you. But I don't think you'd need to hold another public hearing at that point. You could just proceed with the additional information from the Planning Commission and make your decision.
Okay.
Anything else for Vaughn right now?
Got some questions for Dave, but I think I'll save them for after
Public hearing? Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions right now, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing for this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon, to go into public hearing for item 8A. Roll call vote, Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Okay, we are in public hearing. If you can come up, make sure, so Tara gets your name in the book, state your name, so we get that on the record. And then Nick's Johnny on the spot with 3 minutes. If you can keep it at 3 minutes, great. And we'll go from there. So, would like to hear from the public. Anybody from the public?
Just a few questions. These homes over here.
Tell Tara your name, sorry.
You know my name? Okay, David Martineau.
Thank you, Mr. Martineau.
The homes on this side here, they're not in range of the shotgun on the corner there, right? You can't shoot shotgun across that street?
So you got a pointer right there. Point at right where you're talking.
Yeah. That'd be fun to test, right? Just shoot over there with something. Has anybody
Pass on the test.
considered that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the angle of the shotgun range is one of the things that the city attorney was talking about, making sure that our fallout was on city land. You could probably turn your gun and shoot it that direction, but that's not the direction that the gun range is aiming, if you will.
Right, it's just if they did turn and shoot, would it be able to hit a house, break a window?
It probably could. Yeah, I mean,
That's not a concern, okay. And then the only other question I had is, the work you're gonna do on Spanish Oaks Drive, is that gonna include a sidewalk?
yeah, the plan does have sidewalks.
And where does that terminate? Does it just hook into just the neighborhood down below?
Yeah, we'll pull up the plans for you. We can address that in a minute.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wedge. I live on Fairway Drive, and my concern is two things in part. No, actually three. One, where are the wildlife corridors? There's a lot of wildlife that is working its way in that area. That we see it in the backyard. We're right in the corner, kind of by Fairway Drive and Eagle Drive. Two, what resources are going to be left for wildlife, for habitat, and for water resources. And I guess I'll add another two pieces. A year ago when we moved here, I asked for lighting to be downward lighting to get toward dark skies, and no one responded from the city, even though I made an effort to put the question in. So when you add more houses up there, that's more lighting. And we chose our home because it was fairly dark, except for the street lights. So that's another issue with wildlife. And then the other thing is construction. We have a lot of heavy equipment that's going up and down our street at a really rapid rate on Fairway Drive, excuse me. And we've had a lot of squished animals, but also we have children in that area. So I'm concerned about the heavy equipment that we see constantly, day in and day out, moving soils and other equipment to build these homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Anyone else?
Casey Kilpatrick. First of all, appreciate all of your service. I know it's a tough job, right, to make these decisions. I was part of the process 2 years ago. It was during COVID. We did it over Zoom. We had quite a few neighbors. We also had the developer reach out to several of us, which we appreciated. And then it just kind of went away for 2 years. And we got the notice in the mail, which very much appreciate. And I think here we are again. Really, the ability to develop up there, it's private property, right? I mean, I don't think any rational neighborhood, any of us in the neighborhood would say, oh, this can't happen. We knew when we moved in, right? We were in phase one, and there was a phase two that we were all aware of. I think the real question is the zoning change. If the density is in fact lower than it was originally, I think that's a good thing. It's not an easy environment up there in the winter. I mean, we've had people bringing in heavy equipment to move. I've had literally a 12-foot snowbank at the bottom of my driveway. It drifts up there, and it's a little bit crazy. So I think if that really is the case, that the density, even though we're going from R30 to R130 to R115, if it really is lowering, I think that's a good thing. I think the dealing with the reservoir issue is a good thing, to divert that in case there ever was an earthquake or something like that. The water pressure is a positive, because our water pressure there is just barely up to standard. It's very low, and my understanding is houses above will help that. So that's a positive. Traffic, of course, and the winter and the city services are something to consider in all of this. Trash, snow removal, that kind of thing. So for me, I just feel like taking a little bit of time to let's everybody get be able to talk about it a little more would be ideal. But that would be my ask. It sounds like it's a pretty good situation, but we want to make sure that everybody's understanding. My last point, and then I'll be done, is just on the similarity of the homes. At the time, the developer was saying, hey, we're going to have like homes with like materials, right, as not to affect the home values. And I would love to, of course, ideally, we would have a situation like that where the homes up there would be similar to what is there now. And I don't know how that works, but that would be a great thing to make sure that we're going to have like homes. It's a beautiful, beautiful property up there, great place to be, and there are definitely some we've used the word unique many times tonight. It is a very unique spot up there, having lived there for 10 years. So thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Birthday boy. Or take your chance.
Yeah. Hey, first, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. I think Mike Clayson, my bad. My biggest concern is in 2000, whenever we had this, 20, we left that meeting with a lot of questions, and we had a developer that says, we'll get back to you. And if I remember right, the planning commission did not vote. They tabled it, they wanted more information, and maybe they can answer it now. I know my home will not fit on half of those lots. I had to go have my house plans redrawn to fit in our CC&Rs. So to me, being greedy, I do think it's only fair if I had to go have my plans redrawn, we keep the same square footage going from there. I was also told by the city, when we build at the back 20 feet of our property and the next 20 feet is a green zone, I know I'm not going to use the right word, that we cannot put a fence through. There was a lot of rules we could and couldn't do. And so I know that would change how they can do some of their stuff too. Like on the top house on Eagle Drive, there's no way you're going to fit a home my size next to me with where the road is going right now. It's just not going to happen. And we had asked that and they agreed it wouldn't. I can see they've cut down some of the homes and maybe they figured it out, maybe it will. My whole thing is the city has done a great job with some of the questions we already had. The bus, the sidewalk is huge. That's a scary road. It needs a sidewalk all the way down. So if the plans to go all the way down, I don't know where they put it, but that would be awesome because there's nowhere for the kids to walk down that road right now. And then just keep it fair. For those that have built there, planning on it, I don't think we should change the zoning for smaller. And I understand the footage is right because some of those lots are going to be totally unusable because they're downhill like we already have. So you're going to double the houses that are up there now if I think my number's right. And I know the city's addressed a lot of the issues as far as the road, sidewalk, bus stop, and stuff like that. But I appreciate your time and thanks for listening to us.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. Anyone else from the public? Yes.
Cindy Johnson. I have a question. I'm wondering about the density also. What size is the smallest lot proposed?
We'll find out.
Okay. And the other question was, how it does compare to the existing homes now. How many homes, if you didn't change the zoning, how many homes would be there? I mean, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anyone else? Okay. If not, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle and seconded by Councilman Gordon to go out of public hearing. Roll call vote, Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
And Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
And Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
We're out of public hearing. Discussion back up here. Some good questions brought up and insights. Do you want to ask one first?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I'm not sure who to address, Dave or. So I'm a little concerned about the gun club. We've spent a lot of money to have that gun club there. And his question asking about that, because if I'm right, this homes that he's asking here are not down in these homes are not down in, they're up on a hill, correct? This is the gully. Weird thing about this gun club is you can't hear it here, but when I live down there, you can hear them shooting
Chad,
5 miles away.
There's 2 or 3 homes that they're looking at building
Right there.
down on the road.
So they would probably be able to hear the stuff from the gun club, which I don't want to affect our gun club. Our gun club's there. Shot reaching those homes, if I remember right, we'd probably have a hard time getting our ex-city manager to come back and put several coats on and then walked out in the field as they shot guns at him to try to see how far they'd go. I don't think he'd want to do that again. But that
I know,
seemed
but
like
his
a
son
pretty
would.
good distance.
No, I don't volunteer either.
I'm sure if you say, "I dare you," we could get him to come back.
Well, we could defer to the son.
No.
Anyway, a little bit of concern about that, because obviously if they're going to hear those sounds from that gun club. Can you hear the gun club place?
Oh, yeah.
It's here?
Yeah. Hopping all day long.
Was the gun club there when you guys moved in? Okay, just checking.
So, one other thing, will we extend this fairway lane up? That ends there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one of my concerns, and this comes back from 2018, concerning fire, as we get farther and farther up on this hill, there's 2 exits here. We don't have an exit down through our gun club or an exit off the hill this way. I guess I concern a little bit that, and I know that up there you guys are very concerned about that, and we watch that very closely, but that there may need to be, as is Oakridge and Woodland Hills, they have a fire break road that's an alternate route out as we get farther and farther up on this hill.
If I may just respond to a couple of things, I think at this moment, this is as far as the city's plans go in terms of having development on the hillside. There maybe could be some additional development further to the, I guess you might say the west, but I don't think it'd be up this high. So I don't think we'd have any additional development in the area. This would certainly to the east, as I think that's BLM land, right? So, on one hand, this would improve a little bit of the traffic circulation because it will finally connect some of those roads that haven't been connected. It certainly would add a few more homes to the comments that you have. But we don't have plans in the city's, in our plans for enhancement of those roads outward.
Outside.
In terms of the sounds and the emanating from the gun club, I think that's a known amenity, right? The gun club is there. It has been there. It's like a set of train tracks. As somebody goes there and buys the home, that right there, they should know that the gun club is there. In terms of it being in range of the shot, to be really candid, we don't have a protection against all angles of the shot coming out of the gun club, and so I could shoot into the parking lot today without any problem, right, and I'd hit the parking lot. I'm not saying that anybody's going to do that and that anybody has done that, but in terms of how you set up the gun club and the angle and direction that you shoot, that is the direction that we are concerned about. That somebody could do this angle or that direction. We don't use that trap very often, those on this further side. We don't use those very often. When we do use those traps, those are by what I would probably call the professionals, the real gun shooters. When we have Thursday night shoots and where people like me go up and I'm the guy you'd probably be worried about what's he going to do with the gun. We use the traps that are more in the middle of the range, where the lights are right there next to the trap house, and those are outside of the range. Totally an aside, but something I think is just absolutely curious about wildlife. The deer, when you go up there and shoot, and if any of you guys have ever seen this, it's just phenomenal. When you go up there and shoot, the deer will come up really close to you because they know you're not going to shoot them. They know where the spray pattern is on those shotguns. So I've been up there shooting with young men, youth groups and such, and the number of deer that are right there close to us is unbelievable. But they don't go out where the BBs fall from the shotgun. So they know where they're safe as well, which is quite interesting to see up there. In terms of wildlife protection, I don't know if I can speak too intelligently to that. What would happen on the rest of these lots, I think, is pretty similar to what you have had happen on the lots that exist that have been built to this moment. So I don't think this development contemplates doing anything different than what has been what has been done to this point.
Downward lighting along that same vein.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that we have any standards that would dictate downward lighting on the homes, city streetlights. We've switched to dark sky streetlights. I want to say that was probably 2 years ago that we did that. Somewhere right about in the beginnings of COVID. I remember we left the fairgrounds, go look at some of there at Annie's Acres. So
Put in some
streetlights.
adjustable lights now that
Yeah.
in our new development plan. So
Yeah.
they may not be in your neighborhood.
Yeah, we're not
but
going
as we
back
go
and putting
forward-
them in the old,
Yeah,
we're not
if we're going
replacing
forward.
any of it in new
If they
developments.
need to be replaced, I assume at that point we do.
Yeah, they can be. I mean, it's really expensive to go back and replace all of the heads, so we first change out bulbs. But if we have to change out the head, yes, we put in a dark sky head light as well. But all new street lights that we've put in since have had a downward, a dark sky lit head on it.
You guys, Seth, you talked about the road not continuing, but there's also a trail that comes up to about right here. Do we know what the plans are? Is this trail going to continue up and eventually come up to the reservoir, or does that trail also end right there?
Well, that'll eventually connect.
It will connect.
Yes.
Will it connect to, if this, once this development goes in, whatever it will be in the future, will it come into this development, or does it go to the reservoir?
It'll connect up to the reservoir.
Okay.
We've got walkways all the way around that, and we'll connect the neighborhood.
Trail is shown on that parcel south.
Could everybody come up to the microphone?
Right here.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Where
Thank you,
it
Vaughn.
connects in that southeast corner, it will connect down to
Comes
Fairway
around.
Lane Trail.
Now, is this up above? Is this?
Yeah, that's high.
On the reservoir? And then it
It's high,
drops
and then it
down?
will drop down into that gully.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
There's kind of one right now that I walked on Sunday, but it's a dirt one.
It was part of the River Trail project. We ran out of funding.
Okay.
You know what's unique about the shotgun shooting is, if you've ever golfed with Mayer, you're supposed to shoot, right? One way, but for some reason his ball goes
Not true.
into fairway
not
drive.
true.
So those homes are at risk as well.
It's not
Just
true.
want to point that out. Not just balls, but golf clubs as well.
So another concern brought up was construction, equipment, and speeds. I know speed on that road has always been a concern. I know the city at one point went up and did some temporary, whatever you would call it. Okay. I don't know if those are, I've not been up lately. Are they still there? Did they make a difference? Do they help? Is that something we could, if construction equipment is going fast, that's something we could always go and reinstall, is that correct?
Yeah, the chicane, that traffic calming was really effective in mitigating speeds on that, specifically on the main road there on Spanish Oaks Drive. And yeah, we can always put those kinds of things up. What we liked about that one is it was a temporary in this nature. As was mentioned, snow plowing on these hills have been is sometimes interesting. This is the first area our plows go, and this is the area where they go back repeatedly so that they can keep on top of the snow. But this type of a device you can put in, and then you can take it out when the snow, when the seasons start to change, so that the snow plows aren't navigating this. You don't quite have the same traffic from outsiders in the wintertime either. But yeah, we can do that. I can't remember if we put that up this summer or not, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
yeah, that's absolutely something we can do. We got some immediate feedback from neighbors. Some said they hated it. Then some said a week later that they loved it. And I think our research, the traffic data that we got back said it was very effective in terms of changing the speed dynamic on that road. So that's certainly something that we can continue to do. And I think if we do anything like that, we'd do it with some collaboration with the neighborhood, so they're aware of what's going on and how, one, the benefits that we saw, and then two, if there's any tweaks that they could see that we could make to make it better. I think we'd certainly be interested in that feedback.
Dave, did you do the math on smallest lot? I think earlier when.
10.2.
10.2?
Mhm.
So is that
.245
.2
acres. Almost a quarter
Just
acre.
under a quarter.
Just under a quarter.
Is the smallest lot.
Proposed. The smallest lot in the existing, there's like 4 of them that are 9,500. It's very, very consistent with what's there today.
In the current subdivision or the Oak subdivision that's 20 years old?
So it's about the same, yeah.
Do we-
It's almost identical, like you couldn't, like if you averaged them, it'd be
Yeah, that was.
within 100 square feet of each other.
Do you know what,
Smallest,
Yeah.
but they vary wildly on the other end.
Yeah, there's,
Dave, do you know what the average of this new development would be, average lot size?
Something greater than 15,000 square feet.
So the average would be greater than.
It would
because
have
has
to be to qualify.
Now, does that include, we don't have the lot
We
plan
can
up there
pull,
now,
Nick,
but
were you able to open that?
I'm wondering, does that include properties on the hill that can't be developed? Does that go into your average size?
We would only include actual lot area. Now, I don't believe,
Ally and Courtney grew up.
yeah, so the only thing,
smaller. There's like 9,500.
well, there are a couple of things, I guess. There's parcel A, which is immediately adjacent to the reservoir, down on the bottom edge of the screen there. We wouldn't include that in the math for obviously calculating lot size. But then also the streets would throw that number off.
What about like this, for example?
So that is part of that lot. So it would,
So it would
yeah,
be
it's an unbuildable part of the lot.
Yeah.
It's even an untouchable part of the lot. One of the gentlemen earlier tonight mentioned how some of the lots in the first phase as well have basically like a limit of disturbance, kind of a provision to where the vegetation and things like that can't be altered or touched. And that is the case with some of these lots as well, like the one you just pointed out.
Go for it.
But you can, if I could just add, we could even zoom in and you can get just maybe kind of a general feel for how large these lots are. You know. The ones in the middle are 13, 14. And then there's some on the edges that really throw the average off as well. But
those are
a good part
larger.
of those have a large area that can't be touched.
Those are larger than what they were last time I remember seeing these. So speaking of the process, I remember while on the planning commission, there were some instances where a development would come before us, and before it would go to the city council, so much time would go by that seemed like the process had to be started over. Like with the storage units, for example, those came up, it seemed, a couple of times with the planning commission. What's the time period, or what's the difference, or what's the reason why this didn't start over or go back to the planning commission, why we're able to look at it now?
It's kind of funny because nothing ever got approved because it never came to you. In the case of the other project, something actually worked its way all the way through the system.
Council.
Council approved it, and for some reason, that approval lapsed, and therefore we started from scratch again.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
then. Okay.
So council is the only approval that lapses.
No, that's not the case. The other groups that approve things, the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission, their approvals also have an expiration date, so they could lapse as well. For example, a site plan that the Development Review Committee approves, that has a certain longevity before it has to be reapproved. We have an item on the DRC's agenda tomorrow to reapprove a site plan because the approval lapsed. And that type of a thing, so it does happen.
But it can be set longer than a year, where ours is a pretty hard, fast year.
For the most part, that's the case, yeah. And this is certainly, like I said, it's very unique. And it certainly has happened as well that for whatever reason, the city council has wanted the planning commission to take another bite at it at some review, and things have been remanded back to them for another look. So that's not unheard of.
It's kind of where I'm at. If for the last 2 years, we've kind of waited for this project to come to us, if it's another month as a result of the planning commission need to put their eyes on it, what does that really hurt unless we discover something else? Like I mentioned earlier, maybe nothing changes. Maybe everything is exactly as it is. But it sounds like if we've satisfied the public hearing here, you have a public hearing at the planning commission level.
Would there be another public hearing at the planning commission
At
level?
the planning commission level?
Because if there's not, then there's,
Yeah, in the interest of the public's time, they're here. I don't know why you would want to say to them, hey, come to another meeting. Hopefully, and if somebody didn't say something that they wanted to, you can reopen the hearing. I don't know that you're going to get any additional feedback in a public hearing. The public is here right now, so this is a great time to receive that. I think it's worth noting that this has some unique things about it in terms of its vesting. And we have projects that are vested for a limited amount of time. And that's, I think, what you guys have been talking about for a moment, right? That projects have vesting for a year. This is unique in the sense that in 2006, when it was originally proposed, there were some takings that occurred. We received payment for the pavilion, and I think we received some land. And that taking certainly causes us to have questions about whether it's fully vested or not. And we've taken the position, as we've studied the law, that there is vesting that went with those takings, and have worked through how do we resolve the development issues so that we don't have a different issue to deal with. So I think that is also important to understand that it's unique from other subdivisions, because back in '06, there were things that they gave with a part of the original approval that couldn't be given back. And so there is some level of vesting that occurred then. Second, one of the biggest reasons why it has had the delay that it has had is because one of the things that came out of the discussions, either in Planning Commission or in Development Review, but one of the biggest challenges was the dam study. And I'm not swearing when I say that, but it was a dam study. And if my kids were here, they'd say, Dad, say that again, that's funny. But
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, they would. There was a study done, and then there was a review of that study, and then there were issues that were worked out. That has taken quite a bit of time, and I think the applicant would probably express frustration about how much time it took. And I think on the city side, we would say it took the right amount of time because we only get one shot at this. But one of the largest time-consuming issues that has happened in the last 2 years has been that study and the eventual, the resulting work that has come from that. So this project hasn't been sitting idle, waiting and with nothing happening. But that study and the reviews and work on that study really has been one of the major factors.
I have a water question. Jared, are you the water guy? You play one on television. It's been mentioned that water pressure might get better with this development going in. Maybe explain why that's the case, or why they should not plan on better water, or why they should.
He's a little leery there.
Yeah. Help us to understand how the current subdivision gets their water, how that would
You'll have
change.
more volume in your water, you have a bigger water system. So the water comes from the tank above it, so it'll create more volume, more pressure, and just better water in the area, more use.
Because there's more use now on that system, there's going to be more water flowing.
Yeah, if you're at
through
the end of
pipes.
a water line that doesn't get a lot of use, then the water becomes stagnant, so, but that's why.
Okay. Do we know how much Mike Clayson is watering grass for his deer, or? Okay.
Question for Dave before we go. Yep. There is CCNRs for this?
Yeah.
Are they the same as phase one?
So I was going to suggest, because I can't answer that, but it's my understanding, and we've operated with the understanding that the requirements for homes that would be built in phase two, by way of square footage, materials, and everything like that, would be no less stringent than what exists with the CCNRs that were recorded for phase one.
Okay.
So if you're inclined to take action tonight, I would ask that you make that one additional condition of approval, just to make sure that we're covered. And if we need to work with the applicants to get some language added to the CCNRs, we can do that going forward.
So just for my education, because I think I'm following it, this phase one's up here.
Correct.
And at one point, the developer proposed both phases.
One approval.
One approval.
Yes.
Things happen, he went forward with one, and now we're back to two. But it was one application. These folks live in phase one, some of these folks that are here
Yeah.
tonight.
Back in 2006, this was approved as Oakridge Cove,
Okay.
not,
We're
One and
approving
two.
the second phase of a almost identical, well, it is the same thing.
it's
It's
changed.
actually less homes than it was originally
Fewer
proposed.
homes, yes. This is, in fact, I would say, this is a reapproval that's necessary to proceed with phase two, because the approval for that phase lapsed.
And that phase is just this little one?
And some of it bleeds over on the other side of Spanish Oaks Drive.
Gotcha.
Here, I
Okay.
believe, as well.
So similar, if not less dense, similar, if not more stringent building regulations, codes, CCNRs?
Yeah.
Okay. Same access that was approved before, same fire concerns as was approved before, same wildlife concerns as was approved before, although the people live here now intermix with those that wildlife. Okay. I'm starting to get the picture now. Thank you. Appreciate it. Mostly just talking to myself, as usual.
Right, talking out loud's good.
Can I check the sidewalk box really quickly?
Yes, that
Just in
was going to be
look-
my question. Maybe my thought here is these people that live in here, sidewalk or trail that gets all the way down here, past these folks, and all the way down here to this road now, right? Sidewalk or trail all the way. This road, sidewalk, and I think the sidewalk has always ended right here. So you're on a road. Your kids from this subdivision are probably not going to say, yeah, I like walking uphill in 3 feet of snow.
They could
Listen,
tell their grandkids.
I did
Both
it,
ways.
I did it
Both
from
ways.
right here, and that was more than I could handle. But yeah, uphill and then to come down here to you're not going on a sidewalk. You're going here. But for kids here, and for probably kids that are in here, your sidewalk is getting down here and getting on Fairway Drive, getting out to that road where a bus goes, because a bus doesn't come up here.
Right.
Not quite, Mayor. It doesn't get you all the way to Powerhouse.
So, Mayor, this is an interesting topic that I've been working on since 2004. I came here to work for the city in 2004, and one of the very first meetings that I had, I met with one of the residents that lives kind of in this area, talking about sidewalks and getting kids onto buses. And we started studying putting sidewalks up here, and this is an issue we've gone round and round on. Number one, the buses won't come up, and so that we have to put the bus stops down here on Powerhouse Road, and somewhere in this area right here. And so we studied putting sidewalks up here, and after we surveyed the residents back then, we were told, we'd love it, please. And then we asked, will you let your kids use it? And they said, no way. It's crazy. I'd never let my kids walk on that sidewalk. We're like, oh, then why would we put it in? And that was a really hard conversation to have, right? Because we want sidewalks. But then residents back then said, we would never let our kids walk on it. The speeds are too fast. Makes perfect sense. I'm not for putting in expensive sidewalk, though, when we're not going to use it. We did make some significant upgrades to this. I don't feel like that's it, but it is. Yeah, we did make some significant upgrades here a year ago. And I have not, and I apologize, I have not spent a lot of time watching how well it is used or not used. But some of the reports that our people received was, why are you doing this? We're not going to use it. So I think these are really good topics, but in this setting today, I don't think we're going to get to resolve some of these concerns, because we've made some adjustments and we've made some changes, and I'd love to study and see how some of these are being used. If we were to put a sidewalk in from here all the way up the hill and whatnot, you'd probably be, at today's dollars, somewhere in the $500,000 range, maybe more.
How much for a tram?
Pardon?
A tram.
A tram? Well, we might be able to get some UDOT funding for that. Is it too soon for that? Too soon?
I don't know, weren't there?
Jared's whispering in my ear that more than $500,000, and I'm probably stuck in yesterday's dollars. But I think those are good concerns, and I think, Dave, you probably wanted to speak to where some of the sidewalks for this subdivision were going to go. But before we open up maybe the whole neighborhood and some of the issues in terms of the sidewalks and lack thereof, I think it's worth having some more neighborhood conversations with them. What's the reality of the use? Because it's really, really expensive, and if we're going to spend the money on that, we want to make sure that it's the right, whatever it is.
Yep.
We also don't want to go on the opinion of some residents, 2004. We know things tend to change.
They could.
So it's not that we shouldn't take that into account, but I don't think that we should burden the developer up here for something that's been there for as long as I've been a resident of Smash Fork. So I think it is a good conversation to have. I don't know if it's germane to this one.
Seth, to your point of everybody's here, I just had so many people calling or texting this afternoon. And so for me, if there's just one suggestion that perhaps the Planning Commission could, it doesn't seem like it's a burden for the public to be involved. If the Planning Commission is able to, put their eyes on it just one more time, then for me, I don't know.
Brandon, as we started this, I'm like, yeah, that would have been, I think, the preference, and I think some of these comments would not have been here today had we had that conversation in a different venue. I think there was some unknowns coming in today, and Mike and others had those. What about density? What about the look and feel? And I think, have we got there? Do you understand no more density and the look and feel is the same as your neighborhood?
If it really works like how they say, because the guy flat out told me my house would not fit on those lots, and it does, it's his land and window.
Uh-oh. I may have raised a concern.
We're just waiting to come on.
Do we have to? No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't think they were.
Is this the applicant? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
You're part of the public hearing too.
We didn't hear anybody in the public hearing.
So one more thing that was brought up is if the zoning stayed the same at the R130, what would the count be different?
We didn't know that.
Right now, we're at 38 homes, is that right?
Yes.
So just because we leave the zoning at R130 instead of R115 doesn't mean you drop it down, cut it in half, you're now down to 20 homes, right? I mean, that's not how it works, but any idea as to how many homes?
I'll give you an exact number, but it's going to be in the 30 range. But
It would still be
just
in the
need to do it quick.
30s. Okay. So we're at 38 now. If we leave the zoning, you're still in the 30s.
Correct.
Okay.
Or close to it.
Sorry, I'm going to invite the applicant up, and I didn't realize you were here, but just one more thing. If you, I think a valid concern about construction equipment, and I know you have to conform to SWIP, regulations anyway of coming in and coming out.
He used that word.
I know what that is.
I'm very impressed with you tonight.
Let them know your
So
name.
sorry, I should have spoken up sooner.
You're
So
all right, you're all right.
Thought
Thanks.
you guys were just waiting to get to the next spot. So I've got Greg, J.C. Smoot. So I work with the developer. I'm not one of the owners, but just a few things to kind of take a look at real quick is as you kind of scale down just a little bit, the homes down towards the base, going back, I'm looking back at 2004, 2005, 2006. All of these home sites were actually R19, and at some point, I'm not sure when, the whole area was kind of moved into an R130 zoning. But if you look back at the notes in 2004 from city council meetings, they talked about the area being R19 in the I believe 80s and 90s, and.
Pointer right there. She's
okay.
The black thing
Oh,
right there.
okay, perfect.
You're talking about these homes down here, 2004.
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so the developer, when they came in, started this conversation back in 2004, and they were looking at kind of a bonus density master plan development, which was a part of the city standards then. The phase 1 and phase 2, it's important to note that, even phase 1, as what some of these owners think, they're not living in an R130 type of community. they're actually living in a part of a larger, of course, Phase 1 and Phase 2 development. And the average size is extremely comparable, and the homes will be, absolutely gorgeous homes. We've got one of the representatives of the builder who has sent some pictures if you want to go ahead and take a look at that. But the CCNRs, I believe that what we got out of the last planning commission actually improved upon the CCNRs from what was discussed in the last planning commission meeting. And so that was something as a developer we took back and we said, hey, are we okay with this? We're totally fine with that. But some of these home sites, down below, kind of retouching again on the history and the vesting and everything. Some of the things that I think Dave said that it was 2008 or 2009 where some of those things changed. And I believe it was actually a part of Title 15, which was in 2014, if I believe, is where the bonus density changed. And we started meeting with the city in 2014, and so this has been kind of a long, road going back and forth. We've probably done 15 different iterations of this, but with the glance of what it looks like, on paper, it says that we're rezoning, but when you actually look at the history as a whole, it's a part of kind of a larger approval with same types of homes and characteristics in, what will continue to be a beautiful neighborhood.
Thank you. Anything else? I just,
If you guys would like, we'd love to show you some pictures and, maybe answer some of the questions that the, good neighbors.
Start with 5. Yeah, Todd Young. Yeah, and I'm with Millennial Development. So this is a subdivision that's in South Jordan. It's called Park Place. This was a joint subdivision with 2 builders, and these are the plans that we're planning on using here. So if you can kind of take a look at the type of home, I would assume that, I would hope that the neighbors would be excited to see, what the plans are. We don't expect anything to be, definitely not anything smaller than what's there. We expect to be building some pretty high-end homes in this area. Again, the word unique has been used multiple times. It's unique, and it needs to have, gorgeous homes that match what's there. And that's the expectation. So this is just some of the plans that we've built there.
Do the buyers bring their own plans, or could they bring their own plans, or are they only using plans that you guys provide?
So we will provide plans. However, if someone wants a custom home on these sites, it will most likely be allowed. There's going to be a fee for that, but yeah, not on all subdivisions. This one's a little different. It's just, again, it's a higher end subdivision. There's going to be some things that are going to be allowed. Mm-hmm. If we go to maybe 2 and 1. Is that in there? Oh, there you go. That's it. Yeah. But if, I've checked the CCNRs, everything that we're planning on building is substantially higher grade than even what's been required. And what's really important too, is you're talking about the size of home, it's not even necessarily the size of lot. Now that can change the feel of the subdivision if you build huge homes on small lots, right? But if you look at some of the maps that we've shown, there was the map that had the blue rectangles on it. Those were our building pods, right? And so if you look at those building pods, they're actually right and comparable or bigger than what you will see underneath. In fact, I would say probably on an average substantially bigger. So even
the
though
footprint of the home is bigger than the
footprint so the way it's designed, we've got some wider lots, so it's going to feel more open. Right, and those building pads are very large. It wouldn't feel like an R115 subdivision. When you drive through it, it will feel like an R-130. I mean, I don't know how else to say that. Mhm.
Thank you, Todd. Any other questions for Todd?
This was helpful.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your insight, appreciate your help. I found the minutes, it took me half an hour to find the minutes from May 6th, 2020. A couple of points, and Councilman Euler was Commissioner Euler back then, is that correct? Talked about the school bus pickup, said addressing the issue raised concerning the school bus pickup and drop-off area by the mailboxes. Michael Clark showed a plan that the city drafted, which would add additional asphalt to the area and stripe the parking for 9 parking stalls. This modification would create a better school bus stop. So I think this is what Seth was referencing of that back in 2020, and now that asphalt being added and hopefully a better area for kids to be dropped off and be safe for the bus. And then Mr. Clayson brought up, was it approved? The approval was Commissioner Mendenhall, not this Commissioner Mendenhall, but the older Mendenhall, said move to recommend to the City Council the Oakridge Cove Subdivision Phase 2 zone change and plat be approved with the following findings and conditions: that the application conforms to the city's general plan, that the applicant enters into a development agreement, that the applicant meets the city's zoning requirements and construction standards, that the applicant addresses any red lines. Commissioner Warnock seconded the motion, and it passed all in favor. So that's what happened in May 6, 2020, and now it hasn't come for a while to us, but you know where the Mendenhalls live, so go beat up on John too.
That helps clarify, because I think a statement was made that it might not have got approved.
Yeah, and it's probably tough if it was on a Zoom thing. It was
also continued, so that was correct.
It came up later approved.
Oh, so there was a meeting before that.
There was 2 different planning commission meetings.
Oh, I see. So I'm probably reading the latest commission meeting.
Yeah.
We discussed more about the CCNRs with the neighbors.
And was the public not included in that one? Is that inaccurate?
I don't think we held a second public hearing. Yeah, the public would always be invited. It wasn't necessarily a public hearing.
It met the one-time requirement for public hearings, so that's why.
And it's hard to rewind yourself, and after like 3 Zoom meetings in the COVID life, I was like zoomed out, right? I mean, it was hard to even.
It was tough to get you to even come.
Yeah. So good point, Mike, there. Any other questions for staff, the applicant, or anybody up here? If not, I would entertain a motion, if there's a motion.
Mayor, before anybody does act, I think you've got the builder right here, and I appreciate, no, I'm totally drew a blank on your name. Todd. I was going to call you Travis. I was going to get one letter right. Travis is here, and I don't, Todd. So yeah, I'm going to call you Travis. You're Travis.
I was waiting for it.
You're now Travis.
That wasn't a joke. You're Travis. So, Todd, I don't think this is all that necessary, because I think he's going to do a great job. But I think he's standing right here, and there have been some concerns expressed about speed and cleanliness, CCNR compliance, and those kinds of things. And I think as a part of what you're doing, you can look him in the eyes and say, will you do these things? And I think you've got his word, and I think the residents can see that. And I think that's a good thing to do. And I assume Todd, AKA Travis, would be fine with that. I'm pretty confident that he would say that's what he would plan to do anyways. But I think that with him being here, I appreciate that he's here, and I think that's certainly something you can consider to do with him.
Yeah, trust me, I'm not in favor of any more meetings. We all know that about me, right? And I didn't know that you guys were in the back, so I apologize for that. I blame Mayor for not giving you time at the start.
Yeah, it's my fault. Sorry, I thought you were maybe here for another thing. But I can't stress enough, I know that is a long time for a study, but this just isn't this is enough water here that this just isn't this subdivision. This is all the current people here. I mean, this happens. You've got to get this water down in this channel and give our golf course a drink or fill up this settling pond. If something catastrophic happened here, this is not flooding basements. This is washing homes down on Powerhouse Road. And so I think that, even though that's a long time, that is an important study that's got to be buttoned up and complete, which I know I scanned through some of that. And believe me, we've been beat up on both sides of this issue. I think we've all received emails of people here in some other places and across river bottoms from you saying, why can't I build on this slope and everything else? And it's because we adopted some standards that said, hey, we got to be careful about that stuff, and this is what has to be really carefully done to make sure that is engineered correctly and gets water, if it ever came out of here, to be down in here and not in these homes. So probably frustrating for a lot of people, and that's why we're talking here 2 years later, but that's an important thing to certainly get right. So appreciate all the other stuff too. I think dark sky lighting has been a thing that's come around in the last few years, and it's hugely important. I think it's well received in other parts of our community that make it beautiful. And I wish we had those standards back when these were built, because it truly is some of the best views up here in our city. And these views for these homes here are going to be better because your directional lighting that is to our standards. So I appreciate that. Anything else?
Mayor, if this is the last public hearing, can I make another comment?
Mr. Martineau, I will let you, because my dad speaks highly of you.
Wow.
That's the only
all it
reason.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't get a lash. My dad does not speak highly of you.
Well, I speak highly of your dad, too.
Okay.
Each of us here in the neighborhood, I think, have our own reasons or our own, concerns or whatever. So I won't speak for everyone here. In 2020, when this is approved, I don't think this subdivision down in Salem was going on, and the impact it's going to have on Powerhouse Road. So I agree that it probably needs to be addressed, probably not in this meeting, definitely not. It's not their problem. I speak for myself in saying I'm welcoming this subdivision. I'm looking forward to the new homes up there. I'm going to lose my hiking area, but again, it belongs to them, and we trust that they'll do a good job of that. I would just say that we probably should discuss just the traffic flow on Powerhouse. There's a lot of bottlenecks on there. It's going to get worse by adding basically 80 drivers coming up the hill, not to mention all the construction equipment. So I think that's something, if you're willing to put on the docket for another meeting, that we could kind of share our thoughts on that as well. That's a problem they're going to inherit because they're going to be part of it, and they're contributing to it by building homes. And again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Martineau. And that's an important part of the future of this whole area is Powerhouse Road. I don't commend UDOT for much, but I think their Highway 6 intersection
That looks pretty good, huh?
Jackrabbit has done a pretty good job of hopefully saving a few lives there. Sure. That's a tough place, and the design has made it just a bit easier. But you're right, Mr. Martineau. This gets bottlenecked and thin, and Emily doesn't help anymore either when she puts the Festival of Lights on, and none of you guys can get home for a couple hours. So that's a big backup there too.
If I could just comment on that. There was a discussion, Greg Magleby. There was discussion about the MAG meeting. This is one of the items that MAG has been very concerned about, is Powerhouse. And also we're working with MAG on the Viridian Farms that's in Salem, which is going to have major impact to this area. So MAG is highly aware of this area, and so I think even more important for that meeting coming next week.
I appreciate that point, because we do get a lot of talk about, probably at the top of our list, concerns of residents, growth, and traffic. And you guys are not immune to growth and traffic here. But why he's saying MAG talks about that problem is because Mountain Land Association of Governments, you have to pool larger sums of money together to fix these problems. People talk about $130 million of a transfer station is a big number. $60 million of a rec center is a big number. Road fixes aren't even big numbers till they're 250 million.
What's 100 million?
Right, yeah, he just adds another zero to it. And so to fix a lot of these road problems that are long lengths of road, you have to get the association of governments, the whole county to be involved and say, hey, it's time for Powerhouse Road in South Utah County to be fixed. And who you're fighting? I don't know, some road in Alpine, Utah that needs to be fixed too. Somewhere else in a county that has the need. And so it is, you just add a 0 or 2 to the fixes that are traffic issues. And we're working through those, trying to help them as much as we can. But if we were to fix them all in Spanish Fork, nobody could afford to live here for the taxes it would cost to make it work. So it's a lot of money, but it's not, it's a good point. It is on the radar of MAG and it's in the queue. So that's a lot of talking from the mayor. Sorry. Anything else?
Let's do it.
Yep.
I would just say that I will probably make a motion to move forward. Brandon, I appreciate the conversation about pushing it back to have a more informed conversation. I think we had it tonight. And I think that listening to the residents tonight, there were density. Cindy, did you get your questions answered about the smallest lot? How does it compare to the existing homes and how many homes have not changed?
Yeah, just how does it compare to the existing ones? Eagle Drive, it seems like they're like half-acre lots. I don't know what the other people on Eagle Drive. They seem a lot larger lots, and that's where the road's going to extend, right?
Like this one? This?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, ours is over half an acre. I don't know about the neighbors. It seems like they're about the same, and then going into this subdivision, then,
So you're talking, you're up here somewhere.
yeah, 3 lots.
And I think the short answer to that is you have all types. You have a
It's
number
super-
of,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, lower they seem a lot closer together, but the higher up you get, they seem to be further apart.
yeah.
Yeah.
3 lots.
So I've been looking at the current homes that are there. I'm on the county's site looking at, well, I'm actually on the city site looking at lot sizes. I think if you were to take what was considered phase 1 that was built way back when, which includes the homes that are on the west side of Spanish Oaks, if you were to take those homes and actually add those up, you would not be in R130, which you currently are. And so the existing doesn't actually meet the zoning that you sit in. And so I think to say this is going to be an R115 and it'll feel a lot different than what's already there, I don't think that'll be the case.
I think, so you were up here, like, wow. Help me out, TJ. So these are very, very similar. Like they're 30,000, 28, 25. Those are big. You're right. Some of these down in here are smaller, but there are also some in your subdivision the same size. So I think it's
comparable.
It's very comparable. And it was approved, one time it was all the same. Like, to me, that like says a lot. Those folks that moved in knew phase 2 was coming, knew what it looked like, were implementing that. However, this idea of unique keeps coming up. And one of the unique features is, it's been 2 years since a public meeting. Had it went to the planning commission before us last month, these questions, I think, would have been answered. This would have been a 5-minute meeting, and we would have gone on. But hopefully, they're answered tonight, and you feel a little more comfort, and it looks almost like what you're living in today. No different than what you signed up to live in, at least from my perspective. So I'm probably going to make a motion and not table it.
Well, my point to that is, what is different? Show me something that is different.
Larger lots, fewer homes.
So initially, at one point, weren't
So,
some of these
and the CCNRs
9,000?
was a huge concern.
Totally.
Right? And so if they're saying the CCNRs are the same, we're comfy, right? I mean, I feel pretty good that we have the developers here in front of us saying that. And I'm seeing some head nods, and I hope I feel good with that.
The lots on the east side, these are all generally 100-foot frontage. So I don't think you saw any of that in phase 1. I designed phase 1. I don't think there was 100-foot anywhere in phase 1. So these are all.
Sorry, we're missing you.
Come on,
Yep.
Greg.
Yep.
You don't carry that far.
So I think this is like the 15th iteration of this, based on geotech and everything. We have studied this site it's unbelievable number of times. But each version, we're cutting lots, making lots bigger. So we have not.
Didn't you at one point have 8 lots?
Yes, there were 8 lots in that center section. There was an additional lot on the south side of Harrier. There was an additional lot on the east side. And with the geotech and the setbacks and, we've studied this, 2 different geotechs have been up here. The study on the pond, that took 8-10 months in process. And then the results came. And what was great about that is that is not just for the subdivision. It was for all the existing. So if you look at the flood prediction before, it was flooding down Spanish Oaks Drive. It was flooding homes. It was flooding all types throughout the development. With this, we looked at all the different locations of potential breach of that pond, and we've mitigated all of those so that it's a small flow down Spanish Oaks Drive. It's not going to get up to inundate any houses, and then it would all go down Fairway and down into the golf course. So the mitigation that's happened because of this and the time is not just benefiting here, but all the other existing homes that would have had problems.
I think it's been a process problem, not necessarily a.
Yeah, we've had the planning commission.
Well,
right?
but unique
And
is.
a timing issue, right?
Right.
Unique, the one more word for unique is there's not too many subdivisions where we surround it on all 3 sides either.
Absolutely. No, it is certainly unique, and therefore the process was unique, and we got to where we got to, but I think we had the conversation, maybe not the appropriate meeting, but we had the conversation. It certainly seems like an engineer could take 8 months to do a simple study, but we know how they are.
Yeah.
So if you're ready, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, anybody else, any questions before a motion is at the table? If not, I'd entertain one.
No more.
That's good.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. I move to approve the Oakridge Cove zone change and development agreement based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. Do I need to read them all?
Second.
Fon says yes.
Yeah,
Finding 1, that the applicant conform to the city general plan designation. And I'm going to add a condition to these 3. First condition, that approval of the zone change and preliminary plat is contingent upon the applicant entering into a development agreement with Spanish Fork City. Number 2, that the applicant meets the city's zoning requirements and construction standards. 3, that the applicant address any staff review red lines or comments in citizen serve. And 4, that the CCNRs would be at least restrictive as Part 1 in the original approval.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall with those with the finding and conditions, seconded by Councilman Argyle. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
That passes. Okay,
Good?
thank you. Thank you, residents. Thank you, applicant.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
the good discussion.
Yeah.
We can have this whole conversation over again on the next item.
Yes, one more, 9A, we could have tried to put 2 of those together, but 9A is the preliminary plat for Oakridge Cove. Any more discussion on this, Dave, or have we done it?
Done very well.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion on 9A.
Motion to approve Oak Ridge Coal preliminary plat.
Second.
A motion to approve the preliminary plat for master plan development, same findings and conditions, it looks like, that are on this as the last one. Is that part of your motion, Councilman Argyle?
Did you want the 4th added as well to that?
Yeah.
Councilman Argyle, same condition and findings as on the chain ad?
With the same findings and conditions.
Perfect.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Euler. Roll call vote. Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Item 9A is approved. Let's move to item 9B, the Oberg annexation. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Yep.
Thank you, residents. Thank you.
Happy birthday. All right.
Sing it out in the hallway to them.
We should start singing in these meetings.
Don't light candles, there's too many fire marshals right here. Okay, Dave, 9A.
You held a public hearing a few weeks ago on this, and there was some discussion about a handful of different things. As I understand it, one of the key issues had to do with putting a finer point on some language that would be a part of an agreement of some kind. And I think at that point in time, we were working maybe under a different premise or with a different approach than what we have tonight. This proposal, the annexation, is a little bit unique in that it would create an island of residents of Utah County that would be surrounded by Spanish Fork City. I can't think of a time when that has happened previously. And I think largely because of that, we're very sensitive to making sure that any concerns that they have with that situation being created get addressed. And I believe that the proponents of the annexation likewise have worked in good faith to try to make sure that concerns that in this case, it's the Alpinot family in particular, that are really at ground zero relative to the proposed annexation area. That annexation would include a fair part of these properties out in here, and the Alpinops reside right here, actually on a bigger parcel, about 14, almost 15 acres, right over there. The short version is that an annexation agreement, a draft agreement, accompanied the materials that you got with the agenda, and the effort has been made to make sure that the Alpinops get assurance that the access that they want to their property ultimately happens. And in this case, the way that it's set up, it would happen when adjacent properties develop. We're relying on some very fundamental principles that I believe the city follows routinely and regularly, which makes sure that when properties develop, they provide access in the form of a public right-of-way of some kind to neighboring properties, and with that, utilities. You might hear us sometimes use the phrase to and through. So developers have to get utilities not only to their property, but also through that property to adjacent properties. And one of the things that we pay particular attention to is making sure that when properties develop, they don't somehow hinder a neighboring property's ability to be accessed. And certainly given the way that properties in this area, just the way property lines are configured and the such, I think concerns that the Alpinops might have about seeing development occur around them in such a way that it would limit their access to public streets and therefore to any potential future change of use of their property and that type of a thing. I think those are legitimate concerns. But I also believe that the agreement addresses that concern by way of articulating what the expectation is that the city will have as neighboring properties develop. We've had some very direct correspondence between staff and the applicants to that note, very direct conversations. I think they understand the expectation and plan to execute on that. I understand that the Alpinops might want to see some additional language in the agreement to make sure that that concept really runs with properties and not just with them as property owners. And I think that's in lots of ways easy to provide them some assurance of. But I'll tell you, I'm here tonight really just focused on that issue, understanding that that was a key issue that came from your last conversation. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have of me.
Simple question. Is it done?
I sure think it's done, but I don't want to speak for others that are here tonight. I walked by Lynn and Millie, and I know that their applicants are here, so I think it's done.
I see head nods.
Okay.
Millie? Is it half a nod?
Thank you, Dave.
No.
No, we're not in public hearing, but I think with both parties here, it's, we could make sure that this was the only issue, I think, that was holding up. I can't remember anything else that was holding up moving forward on this. So both parties, if there's anything they want to shed further light on with this agreement and that it's done and that there's access, then please speak. Just tell Terry your name so she gets you.
So, yeah, we've worked through them, and I mean, we went through several iterations on this, and I think we've came to the conclusion that it would be better part of the annexation agreement as a public street. I don't know if you're going to call it that, or public whatever, and actually two access points, one to the west, one to the north. The whole development, the plat map hasn't been designed, so we're flexible on where it's going to come through, but conceptually, with the city's standards and everything else, we're fine with that.
Okay.
And utilities sub to our property line, so I think we're good.
Thank you, Lynn. Mr. Davis?
Anything to add?
Said it.
Okay.
Dave Simpson. It's always good to follow a long, drawn-out discussion, because I think you guys are tired and just say yes. Let's do it. The Oberg or the Utah West annexation, Mayor Leifson was leaving, so we sat here for 2 hours, and then after that, it just went smooth.
Oh, you know how to pick them. You know how to pick those meetings.
All about timing.
Yeah, well, we eulogized Mayor Leifson.
So I do think that we've addressed all the concerns. I appreciate staff coming up with this solution, because I think it's definitely the way to handle it, not with two separate agreements, just one. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
I would just ask that it would be part of a motion when you called out for that access, even though it's in there.
Sure, and I think that is,
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
yeah.
Move to approve the Oberg annexation based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. Findings: 1, that the subject property is located within the city's annexation policy boundary. 2, that the general plan land use designation is predominantly industrial. The conditions: 1, that the applicant enters into an annexation agreement. 2, that the properties be zoned I-1 light industrial at the time of annexation, with the exception of the Burchett property, which will be zoned RR. 3, as part of the annexation agreement, that there be 2 road accesses stubbed to the Oplanops property with utilities.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Argyle. Any questions on this motion? Roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
No.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Thank you. Passes 3-1. Yes, if you want a minute to explain.
From the time we started this conversation till today, I've been concerned about access to this area. I appreciate that you worked out with Oplanops how access to their property works. I appreciate that. I knew you'd get there. I wasn't worried about that. I'm worried about bringing this whole piece into our city. I don't think it's accessible from the rest of our city. They're going to make some improvements to their piece that they own, but it still doesn't connect to our city very well. I think it's premature at this point. So for me, it was a no.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tara has that down, right? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for waiting through other business. Takes us to item 9C, resolution approving Utah County Fire and EMS interlocal agreement. Is Chief Hales speaking to that?
Mayor, Council, this resolution was drafted up by our city attorney, Juan Picol, and he has, myself and Seth have reviewed this contract for fire and EMS services to the Utah County areas that we've covered for many years, that were in our boundaries of EMS licensure and fire agreement. This agreement is reviewed about every 5 years, and because of new legislation that occurred last year at the Capitol, and it now allows, it requires all counties and cities to have EMS services as a essential service. And so they have to contract, either provide it or contract with an entity to provide those services. And so this includes 911 ambulance services into this agreement, allowing us to request payment for services within the county area for which those individuals that are living in the county area pay tax dollars for. So that will come back and be recuperated by our city, as has fire done for many, many years. And so this is what that agreement does. We've done a few changes to it and drafts through the county fire chiefs, and we've gotten to this as the final draft, and we feel like it is very favorable for all parties involved.
Perfect. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Hales? Seth, do you have a statement about your
Just as
directors wearing neck apparel?
Actually, we're going to discuss
Okay.
that proper attire, uniforms. No, I want to highlight something really fast. We hired Eddie, and this is something he and I started talking about shortly after he became our fire and EMS director, and started leading the charge in all of Utah County, I think, as our new chief. And I think this is before you today in large part because of the direction that he took in working with all other chiefs in the county as well as Utah County to get this done. And I think it's pretty cool that probably the shortest timed chief in the county is the one that probably helped start this discussion and get it done so quickly. So thanks to Eddie for that.
Thanks, Eddie.
Yes, thanks, Chief. One of the many things that you're taking care of business on in here in Spanish Fork. I'd entertain a motion for item C.
Motion to approve resolution approving Utah County Fire and EMS interlocal agreement.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon. Roll call vote. Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Passes.
Don't make me start.
Yep. Sorry, I threw you off. Item D, ordinance approving municipal code update. Yesterday's committee update, add fire and EMS representative. Did you know you're being added to the, okay, you're okay with that? You don't want to object?
If he's going on a fire, do you want to ask him any more
No, go ahead.
questions?
Go ahead, save our time.
You never ask the chief for questions.
Really quick, Mayor and Council, this item is like, we did several ordinances that updated members of committees and added a fire and EMS representative in addition to the police because we used to have the unified department. This is another one of those that we found, and overall it would bring the membership of the committee to 11 now rather than just 10.
Thanks, Vaughn.
Any questions for Vaughn?
Does this have to go through your board or anything that?
No, this is just another highlight. If you want to be involved in the city, you get a
This will be the only.
You get an extra guy besides Chief. Who's going to this from the police department, Chief?
Lieutenant Harding.
Lieutenant Harding.
Oh.
Been Lieutenant Slaymaker.
Never mind then. Now that just, the allure of that just went down. Lieutenant Harding's from, I'm just kidding. Great guy.
I move to approve ordinance approving municipal code update, Fiesta Days committee update, add fire and EMS representative.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle. Roll call vote. Councilman Euler.
Yes.
Councilman Marshall.
Yes.
And Councilman Gordon.
Yes.
Councilman Argyle.
Yes.
Passes. Item E is the America Rescue Plan Act, ARPA agreement with Utah County for wastewater treatment plant. Jared Johnson.
Sorry, I forgot about this one. This is an agreement with Utah County for us to receive $5 million worth of funds for our wastewater treatment plant. We originally asked for $10 million. You were at that meeting. They asked if there was only $50 million available, so we actually got 10% of it. So this is agreement that they will pay us back once we build the plant and invoice them.
Can do. Perfect. Any questions for Jared on this? Nothing from the Water Quality Board?
It's great.
Utah?
It's great.
All right. If there's no other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve America Rescue Plan Act, ARPA agreement with Utah County for wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilman Gordon. Roll call vote. Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yeah.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
That's approved. Item F, Utah Department of Transportation Access Control Amendment at Calpac Avenue and SR 164.
You have the map, Nick? He can pull up the map and I can show you better what we're going to do. But this agreement is with UDOT for SR 164, which is Arrowhead Trail. We have an agreement with UDOT which controls what access we can have, where we'll have controlled intersections, things of that nature. So we've already agreed on how many accesses along that road. So what we're proposing to do is realign Calpac Road to line up perpendicular to SR 164 at the junction of the first entrance to IFA. So the existing Calpac will,
The first entrance
This
being
is-
to the east of IFA?
yeah, this Calpac Road entrance right here, and on the agreement, there's a map that shows it, but we will realign Calpac to come in perpendicular.
This
to
is part
line
of
up at the entrance right
the,
here.
the development that's going to be going on there, right?
Yes.
So you're removing the one that's there, just moving it.
Yep, we're relocating the entrance from here to here.
Gotcha.
Which you've done already in the past, right? You had to change it a little bit.
Yeah, we changed it just perpendicular. They're proposing with the development to actually move it to line up with the existing access with IFA across the street. And then this will all be residential, and correct me if I'm wrong, everything to the east is a different type of development.
You can get your fertilizer, your whatever step you're on,
Yep.
and just come right across the road.
Four.
We're on four?
Yeah, we're
Should
on
be.
4.
I'm behind.
This time.
Yeah, they're 8.
Yeah.
Oh, 4's the last one. No, you can
No,
go 5.
There's 5 now.
Did you get all that, Sarah?
Okay, we derailed. Where'd we go?
Your dad and see if he's
Not
okay?
anymore. He's
Okay.
retired.
Used to be there. All right, any other questions for Jared on F?
Thanks, Jared.
Can I please sign this one, please?
Yep.
Sign it?
You can motion it.
One
You
time.
can not get it. You don't get to sign it.
Yeah.
Signing nothing.
I move to approve Utah Department of Transportation Access Control Amendment, Calpac Ave at SR 164.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilman Euler. Roll call vote. Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Item F is approved. Item G, resolution approving second amended and restated interlocal agreement for joint and cooperative action creating Mount Nebo Water Agency.
Mayor and Council, you approved this interlocal agreement about the Mount Nebo Water Agency at a previous meeting. However, we overlooked the fact that because it's creating an interlocal entity, it needs to be approved by a resolution. So tonight, it's the exact same agreement, just with a resolution approving it. Any questions about that?
I move to approve resolution approving second amended and restated interlocal agreement for joint and cooperative action creating Mount Nebo Water Agency.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Marshall. Roll call vote. Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
And Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
That's approved. Item H, Veterans Memorial Building, janitorial agreement contract with Nebo School District Bridges Transitional Center.
Wow, that was a mouthful.
Yes. This is a good one, though.
It is a good one. So this is a contract that we've had before. This group of special needs people with Nebo School District, this program's used to transition them into the workplace. We've used them at the Public Safety Building, and now we're just simply transitioning their work over to the Veterans Memorial Building. So that's what this contract is. It's a little bit less money than what we were paying to have it, to have that same work done previously by another contractor. So, any questions on that? It's pretty simple and straightforward.
These are kids and adults that K. Thomas Perkins, Lennon Mendenhall, and other groups at Nebo helped out a lot, but they've given a lot to the Easter egg hunt in the past, filling eggs, helping out there, and all over in our community. But this is a cool part where they.
Yeah, it's a neat, it's a neat program, and they do really good work.
Any questions for Dale on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Veterans Memorial Building janitorial agreement contract with Nebo School District Bridges Transitional Center.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilman Gordon. Roll call vote. Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
That's approved. Item I, resolution approving personnel policy updates. Tyler Jacobson.
All right, so what do you get when you combine non-prescribed controlled substances, political activity, accident review procedures, higher education assistance, tips, and personnel records? You guys know the answer?
You get a personnel policy update.
Yep, item I, you get item I, a resolution approving a personnel policy update. So those are the sections of the personnel policy that we're proposing be updated. We shared with you some of the reasons in the write-up, but do you have any questions specifically about those different sections? Anything stand out to you that you'd like to know more about, or do you feel like would be good to share with the group? Maybe I'll just touch on the first one, non-prescribed controlled substances. One of the main reasons that we updated this section of the policy manual is so that we could ensure the safety of those that come to Spanish work, as well as employees, and also to ensure that we don't jeopardize federal funding. There are some non-controlled substances and even controlled substances which, like, for example, let me just read to you items C and D. So while on duty, employees may use controlled substances which have been properly prescribed by a licensed healthcare practitioner and are being properly used for the treatment of an illness or injury and do not adversely affect their ability to perform their job duties. Employees while on duty may also use non-prescription drugs in proper doses if they do not adversely affect their ability to perform their job duties. And then section D, notwithstanding the above, pursuant to Utah Code, section 26, and then the rest of the code there, sworn personnel may not use medical cannabis even if properly prescribed by a licensed healthcare practitioner in these three instances. One, if the employee's use would jeopardize federal funding, a federal security clearance, or any other federal background determination required for the employee's position. Two, the employee's position is dependent on a license or peace officer certification that's subject to federal regulations. Or three, if the employee uses medical cannabis during the 12 hours immediately preceding the employee's shift or during the employee shift. Boy, looks like we need to update that wording. Oh, preceding the employee shift or during the employee shift. Thanks, Vaughn. So this is something that has been a hot topic among cities for quite some time. We did extensive research on this. We reviewed this policy with our fire and EMS director, who was just here a minute ago, Chief Hells, who has been heavily involved at the Capitol in writing legislation, helping advise how to write this policy. So we got a lot of that from him, as well as we spoke with Ogden City, who's been heavily involved with a policy regarding medical cannabis, and we feel like we landed in a good spot. We kept it simple, yet we were able to cover the areas that were of concern. Any questions about that? Or
is section 1.20.55.01 all available to the council?
Sorry, which?
Higher education assistance?
Higher education assistance?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, is that not in your packet?
No, he's saying.
No, is it available
Oh,
to the
can
council?
you receive that? That's a really good question. I'd have to go and look at the other parts of that policy. We've never had anyone ask that, but we can look at it. I mean,
I'm
you guys.
Well, I was going to say, I'm older, I probably don't need a lot more to be taught, but there's younger guys here that probably need some more education.
You guys govern the personnel policy manual, so.
It's a good thing he's going to be a county commissioner.
Okay, that can be answered later, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can look at that. And then I think it's worth noting, to what Councilman Argyle just brought up, we haven't increased the amount of higher education assistance for quite a few years. I went back and looked to see if we could get even an estimate of when we did that. And 20-plus years ago, over the 20-plus years, inflation has increased by about 65%. This would be increasing the amount available by about 50%. And in looking at the local universities, specifically at UVU, just to see what it would cost someone to go there. For 2 semesters, it's $6,000 just for tuition. And so this would cover about a semester of schooling for an employee that wanted to hire their education. So
Our city employees use this.
they do, yeah. There are a handful that use it each year.
Let me ask you a question about the tips policy.
Yeah.
As employees, so item C, the value of non-cash tips such as tickets
Mhm.
or other items of value must be reported as income on an employee's tax return, but do not have to be reported to the employer. We're considered employees of the city, correct? So when we get a ticket that has a value, should we be reporting these on our tax return?
So I would talk to your tax accountant about that. Yeah, that's a good question.
So there are some things that you receive as a city employee like that I don't think you need to. That's a part of what you're doing. If I were you, I'd be more focused and worried about the ethics side of receiving tips and things like that in terms of receiving a gift from somebody. And that's probably the bigger worry, I think, for probably all of us in this room in terms of if somebody wants to give us something.
Doesn't the city have a policy?
And it mirrors
what
state
you
law.
can and can't
Yeah, and
accept?
it
Okay.
probably mirrors state law most, which is about a $50 threshold.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just the
Is that true?
monetary side of whatever
Yeah.
that maximum is.
Yeah, we had a.
This does not intend to replace that with, you can take
Rank has its
a
privilege.
non-cash tip of any value. Correct?
Right. Yeah, we had a department of the city where, unbeknownst to their management and administration, that it's very common, or not very common, but it was common for the people there to, at the gun club specifically, to give them a tip. The kids that are doing the work up there. And it's a part of the culture of shooting across gun clubs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but as an employer, once we know that that's happening, the IRS tells us, hey, you've got to follow these rules when people get tips. So that's where the impetus for this particular policy is coming from. I don't know that we have many tips in other places, quite frankly. But there.
It wouldn't work. If you walked in to the city billing and said, here's 2 jazz tickets, lose my city bill, it probably wouldn't work. I think they'd still send it to you.
Yeah, and it says in our personnel policy in another section, the city generally advises officers and employees to adhere to the guidelines in Utah Code, Section 10-3-1304, as far as the value of gifts is concerned. However, gifts greater in value than $50 may be accepted if they are occasional and do not have the intent to influence, and this is, I think, what Seth was hitting on, the decision-making of the recipient. Likewise, the city also cautions that gifts with a value less than $50 are inappropriate and illegal if they are given with the intent to influence the decision-making of the recipient. So there's another part of the policy that
And
addresses
jazz
that.
tickets for the next couple of years have no value anyway. Right, Tyler?
Ouch.
Or
That's
you-
recorded. That is
Or are you
really
still a
brutal.
fan?
Brutally
Still a
accurate.
fan?
Still a fan, yes, yeah.
Say the Utah Jazz or Utes?
Oh, I didn't say the Utes.
Oh, man.
We're
That's-
good.
I
Dang, that's a
wasn't
little-
implying anything. I
That's
was
a little
just asking a
soon
question.
for some
He
of
was
the
asking.
Utes fans.
I was just asking a question.
Good thing Scott's wife's having a baby right now. Our library director, he's a big Utes fan.
Yeah.
It's a great pass in the end zone.
Any other questions for Tyler on this? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution approving personnel policy updates.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon. Roll call vote, Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilman Euler?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
That passes. Item I is approved.
I move we adjourn to closed session for land transaction and reasonably imminent litigation.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon to adjourn to closed session for land transaction and reasonably imminent litigation. This is a roll call vote, seconded by Councilman Euler. Councilman Marshall?
Yes.
Councilman Gordon?
Yes.
Councilman Argyle?
Yes.
And Councilman Euler?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.